Easy Polish with Dorota Cooper, the Guide to Polish Imperative Verbs, Part 1. Polish imperative verbs are unique verb forms, the purpose of which are issuing commands, giving advice, making requests, and many others. In English, you would usually use the infinitive verb form, as in clean your room. Alternatively, the verb to let is used to make imperative-like suggestions, usually as let's go for a walk. In Polish, you have to exert a bit more effort to achieve the correct imperative form. This video will teach you all you need to know. The perfective and imperfective distinction. Before we move on to the imperative mood, you should first know that nearly all Polish verbs belong to one or two classes, perfective or imperfective. These are known as grammatical aspects. Perfective verbs describe action that have a clear defined beginning and end. In other words, actions that have clearly been completed in the past or will be completed in the future. Imperfective verbs describe actions without any reference to the completion. We know that they have a beginning, but we don't know anything about the end. Polish imperative verbs in the second person singular. The most basic imperative forms are the second person singular ones. As the name would suggest, their purpose is to issue commands to a single person. The second personal singular form is also the basis for imperatives in some other persons. Because of this, you should learn how to use it before moving on to other imperative forms. The way you arrive at the second person singular form depends on the verb. For this purpose, it is possible to break up Polish verbs into three groups. You just take the base form, cut away the ending, and there you are. The remaining part is your verb in the imperative mood. Well, sometimes you might have to make some adjustments, but more on that in a minute. Now, please study the table below. For perfective verbs in this group, the procedure is pretty much the same, except this time the source of the stem is the third person singular form in the future tense. Perfective verbs don't have present tense forms. Please study the table below. However, you must note that the last two verbs in both tables require some additional changes. In zapłacić, the final ts in the stem changes into soft ć. In the imperative verb, you can expect to see this kind of shift quite often, also as ni changes to n, she changes to sh, and zi changes to zi. In zrobić, the o changes into u. This is also a relatively common shift in imperative forms. Group 2. Imperative form equals verb, stem plus j. Another large group consists of verbs whose stem in the third person singular ends in the vowel a. In these verbs, the imperative form is created by adding ja to the stem so that the final form ends with I. Once again, the source of the third person singular verb stem depends on the verb's aspect. For imperative verbs, the stem is taken from the present tense form. For perfective verbs, from the future tense form. Please study these two tables carefully. The first table, imperfective verb, for example, czytać, third person singular present tense, czyta, czyt. Second person singular imperative, czytaj. The same with słuchać, słucha, słuchaj. Pamiętać, pamiętaj, pamiętaj. Czekać, czekaj, czekaj. Śpiewać, śpiewaj, śpiewaj. Second table, perfective verb, przeczytać. Third person singular, future tense, przeczyta, przeczytaj. Posłuchać, posłuchaj. Zapamiętać, zapamiętaj. Poczekać, poczekaj, poczekaj. Zaśpiewać, zaśpiewaj. Nice and easy. Group 3, special cases. The third group is by far the smallest one, as it contains rare exceptions to the above rules. The table below presents a selection of the most common ones. Please study this table carefully. Verb być, third person singular, present future tense, jeść, second person singular imperative, bądź. Mieć, ma, miej, jeść, je, jedz, biec, biegnie, biegnij, spać, śpi, śpij, wstawać, wstaje, wstawaj, powiedzieć, powie, powiedz, wziąć, weźmie, weź. First are the verbs być, mieć and jeść, whose imperative forms noticeably differ from the third person singular forms. This should not be very surprising, as the three verbs tend to conjugate very irregularly. Then there are the verbs biec and spać. Even though the third person singular stems do not end in a, they take an additional y in the imperative, which results in a soft e ending. The verb wstawać has the imperative form wstawaj, which is derived from the infinitive rather than the third person singular form wstaje. A similar thing can be said about the perfective verb powiedzieć, whose imperative form powiedz derives from the infinitive and not the third person singular form powie. The same will be true for other verbs with the root powiedzieć, such as odpowiedzieć to answer or dowiedzieć się to find out. Finally, the imperative of the perfective verb wziąć is weź and not weźm, as the third person singular form might suggest. To wszystko na dzisiaj. Do zobaczenia. Watch out for the second part.